folks, this is Rainiac, and this time I'm bringing you a very special, festive, seasonal LP, brought to you in part by Funcom and Sunsoft, and I'm totally not dragging this out for the title screen. There we go. Let's play Daze Before Christmas, a action platform game developed by Sunsoft and Funcom in 1994 for the Mega Drive and Super Nintendo. And yes, the Z in the title is intentional. It's a pun, because you know, days and days are two words that sound exactly the same, but are completely different. Oh, they're so hilarious. As you can see, we've set the difficulty to hard, and anti-time, you don't need to bother what that is for the time being, but it's set to 20 seconds. That will become important a bit later on. No passwords, because we're going straight to the start of the game. Let's jump into it, shall we? So the game does have a bit of an opening story. I'm going to spare you reading through all the text, because this is not 2006, and I've come a long way since Donkey Kong Country 3 on the GBA, let me tell you. But the basic plot is, a bunch of monsters have combined to make Santa Claus's life a living hell. Basically, they have stolen his presents, they've stolen his reindeer, they've turned some of his presents, or some of the toys, evil, so they're now going to attack him. And apparently a guy called the Timekeeper has stolen plans. What they are, I have no idea, because that's never really explained. There's also a mention of a magic potion. We'll get into that in a moment, because that's probably the best part of this entire game. So you might be wondering why on earth I've decided to LP this game. Well, if you couldn't tell, it's Christmas. Duh. And this is a nice touch. The level select screen, although it's not really a select screen because you can't choose what level you go to, is in the form of an advent calendar, so that's a nice touch. And another nice touch is that every level starts with these rather amusing pictures to show you what level you're doing. We start in Santa's hallway, of course. Now Santa jumps with the B button and shoots out snow with the Y button. And that's basically the entire premise of the game. But although this is quite a simple game, it's actually kind of enjoyable. It's short, don't get me wrong. You can also shoot to open presents and collect, in this case, health in the form of flashing Santa hats. However, not all the presents are good. If you shoot a bad guy with the magic, as they call it, and there's an example, a bomb and a present, not nice. If you shoot a bad guy with the magic, they will turn into a present which you can then collect. You can also rescue elves out of the boxes, although they just give you points. I'm going to try and get all the points I can in this LP, just because I'm like that. Sometimes enemies will pop out of the present boxes, and there's a couple of other things, but we'll come to them when we come to them. These bells are checkpoints, so if you ring them and then you die, because it is possible to die in this game. Even though it's a kids game about Santa, you can actually die, you can actually game over, you can actually kill Father Christmas. So you know that's perfectly appropriate for the season of goodwill to all men. Is killing Santa Claus. But I digress. There's a couple of other things over here, a couple of other presents, like a bomb. And I believe that's a rat. Actually, no, it's a health. No, there's the rat. There we go. And a health power-up. And that flashing star to the right here is the end of the level. But before we do that, I need to show off the best part of this game. It's just that this little candy cane ladder of sorts. If you collect... Well, first of all, you've got to jump correctly. That's kind of embarrassing. Welcome back to the realms of live commentary, people. Yes, if you collect the steaming hot cup of tea or soup or whatever it's supposed to be, you become Anti-Claus. I swear to God, the best part of this game, because Anti-Claus is Santa's evil twin, and he takes no sass from anybody. He beats enemies over the head to death with a giant sack of toys. You can also hide in the sack of toys, and anytime you're Anti-Claus, this great remix of dashing through the snow, you know, jingle bells plays in the background, and it's just all around fun times. So now we're coming up to the second level of the game. Let It Snow. This is a really short level with a really humorous ending. Well, I kind of find it humorous, but then again, I'm kind of like that. As I say, this is quite a simple game. What would you expect for a platform game developed solely for Christmas, where you play as Santa Claus? But, as I say, I kind of like it. It was developed for the Super Nintendo and the Mega Drive. And by the way, that Jack in the Box not catching me out. It was developed for the Super Nintendo and the Mega Drive. Although I believe the Mega Drive version only got released in Australia, getting caught up by a penguin. Not good. You might notice that every time we wrap up an enemy in a present, and that's the end of the level by the way, that bottomless crevasse, it looks like death, but it's actually the end of the level. That's kind of amusing. Just kinda. Every time you collect an enemy wrapped up in a present, you will notice that your present total goes up. That will be important for a bit later on, for a certain type of level. Now in the ice cave, with Santa getting freaked out by the silhouette of what looks to be a giant rat, and this is one of the first sort of maze stages of the game. I would call the early levels quite linear, with the possible exception of this one. Most of the levels are quite linear, where you just go from side to side, A to B, and it's fairly obvious where you have to go. Here it's more of a maze. Also in this level, the bad guys have kidnapped Santa's reindeer, and we have to rescue them. Unfortunately, Santa was quite clearly a victim of the worldwide recession, because now he's only got 2 reindeer in this game. If you collect a Thunderbolt power-up, you get hit by a penguin. No, sorry. If you collect a Thunderbolt power-up, fortunately there's a health there. I'll get to the end of my sentence in a minute, I promise you. If you collect a Thunderbolt power-up, as you can see, you will shoot fire, and that's needed to melt these icicle walls, or ice walls, that are holding these reindeer, which for some reason squeak like a baby whenever you rescue them. As I say, they could have put 7 or 8 reindeer in, because that's the traditional number that Santa has. Do I have to do the children's rhyme? I guess I do. And there's another nasty trait, but enough of that. Anti-Claus. As I said, the only downside to Anti-Claus, as you can see there, is he cannot open presents and he can't collect presents. But if you're not really bothered about your score, that's not really a downside. Your score does nothing other than, well, improve. And you see, he's actually invincible. He can even walk through spikes. Anti-Claus can die, or I should say you can die as Anti-Claus, but only by falling into a pit, or I think possibly by being crushed. Other than that, he's completely invincible, and he is definitely the best thing about this game. As I say, the score doesn't actually do anything. You'll notice every time we open a present, even if it's a bad one, and that was a bit of a time-saving drop there, there's nothing really up those clouds. Actually, I tell a lie, there's one present, and I believe it's either health or an elf. That wasn't meant to rhyme, but it did. Oh no, it's a checkpoint. The only thing that your score is good for is at the end of the game. You get to put your score into a high score table, but really, who cares about your high score in a game that's solely about Santa collecting everybody's presents and saving the day? I know I don't, which is a lie, because I'm collecting every present I see, but still. Falling icicles and I fell for it, god damn it, now I feel like I'm 4 years old again. We're almost at the end of this level. As I say, it's like a maze, and there's the start to end the level. There are a couple of levels in this game that are quite tricky. You won't really encounter them in this first part of the game. But let's just jump straight into the 4th level, Blue Magic, and that's a rather amusing picture of Santa trapped in a bubble. Kind of a strange thing about this game, some of the levels are not really what you would call Christmas themed, like this one for example, which is a cave or possibly just blue sponge. I don't know, in a game that's called the Daze Before Christmas, or Days Before Christmas, technically not the, but really, who cares about a little the? You would expect nearly all the levels, if not all the levels, to be Christmassy themed, but I think in a way this is actually this offers more variety, and that's totally a dead end. You will see this quite a lot in these levels. I thought I'd fall into a pit then. Careful with this jump, because you can fall into a pit. Now if you go into this machine, then Santa gets turned into a present, but it doesn't last very long. It's just meant to stun you, really. But there is a bit of a nasty trick that levels like this can play. There will be times when you see a jump, but you can't see the platform you're meant to land on to get to the next level. You can just jump over these machines, by the way, and you won't get turned into a present. So it's kind of easy to avoid, although if you go in this way, you still get turned into a present. Just checking. It's my job as an LP, I have to check every little thing and show off every little thing about the game, don't I? And now you know, people, why I switched to post-commentary. But I felt that I couldn't really do this justice with post-commentary, and I'd probably get bored. It's a lot more fun, spontaneous, this game. Checkpoint, by the way. Because, you know, you couldn't just tell it was a checkpoint from me telling you that the bells were a checkpoint. Did I say I'd come a long way since Donkey Kong? I totally lied. The magic carpets, they will disappear after a while, so make sure you're not standing on them when that happens, especially if they're suspended over a pit. Interesting thing about this game, as I was trying to say earlier but kind of interrupted myself, and of course that's not a trademark of my commentary either. No. This game on the Mega Drive, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, and now I've said that, somebody sure will, that on the Mega Drive it was only released in Australia. And it shares this trait with Echo Jr., one of the games in the Echo the Dolphin series, and probably the best game about in that series, because you can't die. I know Freezing Inferno LP'd Echo Jr. very recently, and if you haven't seen that video yet, I recommend you check it out because it's hilarious. He did it in one sitting. And now that I'm done pimping out a pal for this episode, let's finish the level, shall we? Well, let's fight this Jack in the Box, and then let's jump on this magic carpet, and then let's finish the level, shall we? There is a neat little trick about you can't do it on moving platforms, where you can actually, if you hold down, and that Jack in the Box was really pleased to meet me for some reason, and that one, if you hold down, you will see what's underneath you. Very useful if you think you're about to fall into a bottomless pit. And again, topping up with useless score totals. But the next level, level 5, offers something a little different. It's called the Evil Snowman because this is a boss fight. It mentioned in the opening storyline how there were giant monsters that were conspiring to make Santa's life a living hell. Well, this is one of the giant monsters, the Evil Snowman. But before we can get to him and fight him, we have to go through penguins, of course, snowmen, and also perhaps the most dangerous hazard of the level, and I'm totally not dragging this out so I can get to it. Here we are, ice flows. That water is a one-shot kill. And I very nearly fell off the platform. I might get hit by this minnow. Well, I did, but I also turned it into a present, so I'm kind of annoyed about that. The snowmen aren't too difficult if you're going up the hill. It's when you're going down the hill, because you have to jump over them and then get hit, like I just did. Fortunately, even in hard mode, the game is quite generous on extra lives, checkpoints, and health. Which I need, because I'm getting hit all the time by these goddamn snowmen, and I thought I was dead. Good grief. Anyway, we just got the firepower up, and the music has just changed. Funny, I thought there used to be a health there. This guy is not difficult in the slightest. He's a giant snowman who throws snowballs at you, but as long as you don't go to the top, he can never hit you. Shoot him in the head with the fire magic, and he'll start to sweat. Do this 6 to 8 times, and you win the fight. You can even do this without jumping up, but it's just quicker. You can just stay on the cloud and you'll be perfectly safe. As I say, it's a really pathetic boss, and you can easily get the gist of what you've got to do just by watching this. It takes all 30 seconds, he groans, he turns into his shoes and a hat, and Sandra has just murdered a living being. Because nothing says peace on earth and goodwill to all men like murder. But that's the end of the first of 4 bosses. He is by far the easiest. No other boss is what I would call particularly difficult. But they're what I would call a lot more fun than that. And every time you defeat a boss, with one possible exception, you go into this stage. A sled stage. Where Santa and his 2 recession-proof reindeer fly over a country and drop presents with the Y button into chimneys. In this case, it's England. So that probably means he's delivering a present to me. Well, it would be if this wasn't a 18-year-old video game. And also, if I could actually deliver the presents. There's going to be a lot of upset children because of this, because I'm missing out chimneys left and right here, and this is not good. There are hazards in these levels that you have to avoid. I believe on easy mode, the hazards don't appear. These helicopters are kind of tricky to avoid, because they come at you quite quickly, but as long as you sort of move up and down like this, you shouldn't take too many hits. The further away you are from the chimney, bear in mind that the further the present will take to drop, and the further it will take to reach that chimney, so that can kind of mess with your aim and cause you to drop a few presents. You don't actually lose for missing out a chimney. You don't actually get any negative repercussions whatsoever. You could theoretically just fly through, but it adds to your score, so I suppose it's worth doing it. You'll notice every time you drop a present, your present total depletes, and this is why you were collecting the presents in the action stages by turning enemies into blue presents, so you could drop them down the chimneys to unsuspecting good boys and girls. And then they give us a password, and that'll do it for the first part of Let's Play the Daze Before Christmas. Join me next time for the second half of the game, featuring, among other things, another boss, and one of the trickiest levels in the entire game, surprisingly early on. Until then, however, see you later.